In my office, a 74-year-old man sat with quivering hands, not from illness, but from something far more ordinary and quiet. I didn't know, Menarano, he continued, looking directly into my eyes. I was causing myself pain. Unaware of the silent harm he was causing, he had been doing what millions of men do in private for years. He's not by himself either. I'm Doctor. Speaking of things that most guys were never told, allow me to reveal a second, more profound secret. What if I told you that masturbation is about more than simply sex? It's also about emotion, memories, and the silent way we maintain our sense of self. Your perspective on this conduct may be totally altered by what you're about to hear. In order to let me know that you are still watching and paying attention, please put the number 1 in the comments section. Let's move on to the following secret, which could completely change the way you view your body and yourself. Secret number 2. Masturbation has emotional and neurological components in addition to sexual ones. I recently had a conversation with a retired veteran who was in his late 70s. Howard was his name. Due to a medical emergency, he was absent. He said, "I just don't feel anything anymore. Not just sexually, but in general," which is why he came in. He initially believed that his difficulties were physical, but as we conversed, it became increasingly evident. His habits were about something more profound, subdued, and sentimental than desire. He had been masturbating nearly every night as a coping mechanism rather than out of lust. He was unaware that it had turned into a coping mechanism for his loneliness, depression, and sleep issues. Both his and my perceptions of him were altered by that event. I wish more older males were aware of this sooner. In your 60s and later, masturbation is more than just a physical release. It is connected to your nerve system, emotions, and brain. Your body releases oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine after an orgasm. These substances enhance mood, lessen anxiety, and control sleep. Many guys, particularly those who live alone, find that this small act helps them regain control, connection, and serenity. However, if done unconsciously, it may gradually become meaningless. That's what Howard experienced. The significance diminished, but the practice persisted. We were brought up to be strong, to suppress our feelings, and to think that having powerful feelings made us weak. That's why you should only let go in private. When self-touch occurs, the act transcends the physical realm. It turns into survival, but that isn't how most men view it. They believe they are merely clinging to an old habit. They don't realize that their bodies continue to seek peace in addition to pleasure. The act itself is not dangerous. Things isn't doing things without thinking. You risk gradually losing the capacity to engage with yourself more deeply if you're using masturbation as a way to kill time or to get away from an emotion you haven't identified. However, it becomes therapeutic when you approach it with presence and focus. It turns into a neurologically sound and emotionally clear behavior. Yes, that is still more important than ever at your age. If that secret was unexpected, the next one could be much more pressing. What if I told you that ignoring that aspect of yourself and not addressing it at all can be more detrimental than beneficial? Your body may undergo changes that no one ever told you about, and what you're about to learn could explain them. Secret number 3. The use it or lose it principle is true, but it's misinterpreted. I can still clearly recall Roy. He was 74 years old, widowed, and had recently resumed dating after being single for over 10 years. He wasn't thrilled when he arrived to visit me. He felt embarrassed. "I've found someone at last," he remarked. "However, my body no longer functions." His voice was filled with anguish. Something was broken, he thought. He believed it to be too late. However, he was unaware that it wasn't dysfunction, something that many older guys never hear. It was not being used. I wish all men over 60 could learn this secret sooner. Age isn't the only factor that affects your sexual function. Activity is connected to it. The tissues and blood vessels in your penis react to how frequently you use it, much way your muscles deteriorate if you don't move. They gradually start to atrophy in the absence of stimulation. Nerve endings are boring. Elasticity diminishes. The circulation slows down. Regretfully, nobody ever alerts you to this until it has already occurred. It had been years since Roy had touched himself. He believed it no longer mattered, not because he didn't want to. His desire was dampened by life. He had accepted it as a normal part of growing older. However, his body had been subtly adjusting to that neglect on the inside, shutting doors that might have remained open with a little care. The good news? There was yet time. He started to feel things again with mild, regular stimulation. No pressure, just presence. It took time. Mohit Kara, a men's health and urology expert with more than 30 years of expertise assisting senior men in preserving their vigor, intimacy, and self-respect. What most doctors won't tell you, I'm here to tell you. Masturbation changes beyond age 60. Additionally, it might subtly impact your body, mind, and even manhood if you don't adjust. It's natural, safe, and even healthy, you've been informed. However, what if I told you that your method counts more than you may realize? Slowly, however, his body recalled, and with it, a fragment of his self-assurance returned. A lot of elderly guys believe that preserving their sexual health isn't worth it unless they have a companion. That belief is damaging in addition to being false. At this point in life, masturbation is more than just a sexual activity. It's about maintaining the simple yet potent truth that you still matter, which keeps your systems functioning, your tissues strong, and your body engaged. And if you give it a chance, your body still wants to react. However, if neglect may do harm without being noticed, what about the reverse? What if the manner you continue having sex is actually changing the way your brain is wired? I'll reveal to you the next secret, which is something that older guys no longer see very often. However, it can be subtly numbing your senses, decreasing your motivation, and altering your perception of true intimacy. This is something you should hear. If you're still watching and these observations are resonating with you, please let me know by leaving a comment below. Let's go on to the fourth secret now. One that subtly reshapes your desire without you even seeing it, exposing a concealed habit. The fourth secret, you might not be aware of how porn is affecting your sexual sensitivity. Late one evening, I had a conversation with Ernest, a 68-year-old widower who had been experiencing emotional and physical loss of sensation. He said something to me that I hear all too frequently. Even though I continue to touch myself, I feel as though nothing is truly reaching me anymore. He initially believed it was simply age, but as our conversation progressed, it became painfully obvious. His habit of watching porn every night, which he had developed as a source of solace and stimulation, had subtly started to take away his capacity for emotion in the real world. Many older guys wish they had known this secret sooner. Your brain loses flexibility and adaptability as you age. Additionally, your brain might have gradually adjusted to that high-intensity, quick reward input at the expense of genuine closeness if you've been using porn as your primary source of stimulation for years. Your brain's reward chemical, dopamine, is unnaturally released when you watch porn. This gradually rewires your system to react solely to intense images and continuous novelty. And before you know it, touch, whether from a real person or even from yourself, feels uninteresting, aloof, or insufficient. The fact that this occurs gradually makes it particularly risky for elderly men. At first, you don't notice it since it feels cozy. However, you eventually come to the realization that the pictures thrill you more than a true connection, that you have stopped using your creativity, that although your head still wants to feel, your body feels numb. Ernest compared it like being confined in a room without windows, but with the lights on. He was unable to connect, but he could see. Together, we gradually weaned him off of that reliance. By patience, not by condemnation. Even he was taken aback by what transpired next. He started experiencing sensations once more in a matter of weeks. He became sensitive again. His thoughts were vivid, all because he began to reestablish a connection with his inner world, his breath, and his body once he took his eyes off the screen. All I can say is that I wish he had begun sooner. It might have prevented him from becoming numb for years. The last secret has now revealed, one that connects all the others. Because there is something that older men should be aware of after all the stigma, shame, and misunderstanding that surround this subject. Something that might permanently alter your perception of your health and yourself. Fifth secret. Instead of being a burden, masturbation can be a lifesaver. During a normal checkup, I once sat across from a man named Walter. He was 75 years old, courteous and soft-spoken. "Doctor, is it still okay to touch myself at this age?" he inquired when he hesitated toward the end of the appointment. I was halted in my tracks by that question. I had heard it much too often, not because it was unique. He seemed to be confessing to something embarrassing, and it was tinged with embarrassment. However, Walter was unaware of this, and I wish all older men were aware of it sooner. You shouldn't hide from masturbation. It may be one of the most significant self-care activities you have left at your age. In actuality, intentional and present-minded masturbation can promote more than simply your erotic gratification. By promoting blood flow, it maintains the health of your pelvic tissues. I'll reveal 5 important masturbation secrets in this video that older men wish they had learned sooner. Some facts that may help you maintain your blood flow, shield your prostate, and even boost your self-esteem. And stick with me through to the very end, because the last secret might alter how you connect, age, and live for years to come. It may be beyond time for this discussion, but there is still time. By removing fluids that might otherwise accumulate, it supports the function of your prostate. Through the natural release of relaxing neurochemicals, it improves mood, reduces anxiety, and enhances sleep quality. But it does something even more important than biology. It helps you stay in touch with the part of yourself that still has identity, desires, and longs to feel different. Walter halted everything once his wife died. He thought that was the end of that phase of his life. He hadn't given himself a moment of pleasure in almost 6 years. He said, "I thought it was inappropriate. I didn't believe that kind of man was still acceptable." I heard the echo of that sentence in so many others that it stuck with me. Our culture instills in elderly men the idea that they should shrink, go silent, and cease feeling. It's a nasty fiction, though, because desire simply becomes muted rather than vanishes. And it becomes loneliness if you don't listen. Walter's mood improved as he started to calmly and pressure-free reconnect with himself. He slept more soundly. His smile widened. He had no desire to be young. He was taking back his honor. Later in age, masturbating can turn into that. It's a comeback, not an escape. A method of saying, "I'm still important." After hearing the 5 secrets, there's one last fact that connects them all. One message that cuts right to the core of what it means to age with power, self-respect, and confidence. A message that transcends science and medicine. This is something you should not miss. In conclusion, 5 secrets of masturbation. Elderly males wish they had known earlier. If you've read this far, I want to thank you for listening, but also for having the guts to discuss a topic that most men your age were never allowed to. You belong to a unique kind of strength that is based on understanding rather than denial. These 5 secrets go beyond simple medical guidance. Genuine lives, genuine regrets, and real awakenings from guys who secretly wish they had known sooner have molded these hard-earned realities. We started by dispelling the idea that a man's manhood is defined by his erection. Even if the mechanics have changed, many men live in silent fear for years, unaware that connection and pleasure can still be had. Next, we looked at the emotional, neurological, and profoundly human aspects of masturbation. The kind of action that can ground you in ways that nothing else can when performed mindfully. You saw that disuse is not innocuous. The body may gradually forget what it was accustomed to, but you can help it remember if you are patient, present, and consistent. We discussed how porn changes your brain and lessens your reaction to genuine connection, which is its hidden cost. The truth that most guys never hear was finally revealed to us. That masturbation is not a cause for embarrassment, particularly in later life. It might save your life, a means of maintaining a connection to your identity, your body, and your sense of complete life. Many men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s have informed me that they believed this phase of their lives was ended. They felt that they had nothing left to give or feel. But after working in this industry for decades, I've come to realize that passion never goes away. It becomes softer. It moves. However, it never goes away. And you find something tremendous when you learn to meet your body where it is rather than where it used to be. Still, you're a man. You're still whole. You still deserve it too. I therefore hope that these 5 realities may assist you in recovering What was never lost and is simply waiting to be remembered, regardless of where you are in your journey, single or paired, active, or just starting over. You are still capable of feeling, touching, and healing despite your advanced age. Actually, it can be the reason you should get started right away. I want to extend an invitation to you to be a part of something greater if this message resonated with you in any way. Tell me which of these 5 realities meant the most to you in the comments section below. Additionally, be sure to subscribe and enable notifications if you're prepared to continue learning, developing, and regaining your health in a dignified manner. Because your narrative still matters, I offer frank, useful advice designed especially for guys over 60. You're not invisible. You're not done yet. If you are willing to reach for it, there is a lot more life, connection, and vigor in store for you. If you haven't already, I urge you to click the subscribe button and turn on the bell before we start so you don't miss another frank, age-appropriate health tip designed specifically for men like you. Type 1 in the comments section to let me know you're here if this topic resonates with you. Type Y if it doesn't. I can better serve you thanks to your input. First, let's discover the first truth. Many elderly men's lives have been subtly changed by a secret that they eventually discovered. Additionally, forward this video to anybody you think should see it. You never know the impact that a discussion like this can have. Together, let's continue to shatter the silence. The truth is something you deserve. You are deserving of assistance. Above all, you deserve to feel alive once more. First secret, the whole narrative is no longer your erection. And that's all right. I recall the day a 72-year-old guy confessed, "Doctor, I can't do what I used to do," as he looked at me with a mix of embarrassment and frustration. Am I no longer a man as a result of that? That question devastated me because I hear it from a lot of men who enter my office in silence, terrified of a change they never expected. They observe that things aren't as dependable, quick, or firm as they used to be. Unfortunately, the majority of them believe that their sexuality is over. Here's the reality, though. I wish all men over 60 had discovered this sooner. The whole narrative is no longer your erection. It's not failure either. Evolution is that. You know, our bodies naturally change as we get older. Hormone levels change, blood flow slows, and nerves take their time. What used to seem automatic now takes time and deliberate effort. However, this does not imply that your sexuality is flawed. Indeed, it can take on greater significance than before. Once, hardness is no longer the only metric used to measure it. The society in which you were reared valued in performance, associated masculinity with endurance, and seldom allowed for vulnerability. Nobody took you aside to tell you that connection and pleasure are still important and that you don't need a flawless erection to have either. Some of my patients spent years thinking they were flawed when all they needed was a fresh perspective on how their bodies were changing. Many people were unaware that an erection and an orgasm are two different things. Without the complete reaction you had at 25, you can still feel physical fulfillment, emotional connection, and deep release. However, because no one taught us this, a lot of guys suffer in quiet because they think they've lost something that was only altered. Presently, presence is more important than performance. Permission, not coercion. A new form of closeness becomes possible when you stop seeking what was and begin to explore what is. One based on self-respect, patience, and curiosity. This first secret is crucial because of this. When men ultimately realize they are still complete, deserving, and capable of pleasure, even if the path appears different than it formerly did, I have witnessed lives transform.